Welcome to the 2016 Human Resources Professionals Association Conference. And there it is, right up front in our association's name, right at the back. It's a statement of our competence and a public declaration of confident accountability. But I think it represents even more than that. By a show of hands, how many of you out there love the practice of human resources? I thought so. Well, the root of the word amateur comes from the lover, from French, meaning lover of. So give me another show of hands. Who could afford to work at your job without any financial compensation whatsoever, just for the love of HR? I thought so. So, as much as we may feel the pull of our professional calling, as Brenda puts it, those pesky mortgages and grocery bills and living expenses that show up each month means we can't do it just for the love of it. So clearly, we're not amateurs. But just how do you turn an amateur Joe into an extraordinary pro? Whether you're an aspiring HR Joe or Josephine, it's a very interesting question. So, take a look at this picture. Some of you might recognize this as Roger Bannister breaking the 4-minute mile way back on May the 6th in 1954. These days, it's hard to convey the significance of that moment. It was like landing on the moon. In the mid-50s, a 4-minute mile was world-shattering international news. Back then, people thought that breaking that 4-minute mark was a human impossibility. Or if you did manage it, your brain or your heart might explode in the process. But then, a 25-year-old full-time medical student who only trained 45 minutes a day managed the impossible on a windy, gloomy cinder track in Oxford. Bannister paid for his own train travel, his meals, his kit. He trained so little and ran only in local events that there was no question that he was only an immensely talented amateur. Ironically, he got his only professional designation a few months after he broke that 4-minute mile when he qualified as a medical doctor. So let's try that again. And take a look at this picture and see if you can tell who it is. Well, it's not another world record-shattering athlete. That's just me in my kit when I played for an amateur rugby team in the 1980s. I paid for everything except the jersey. I practiced weekly with the team. I paid a fee to join the club. But if I had played one game for money in a paid league, even in a completely different sport, then I would have been banned for life from amateur rugby. The kicker was that after every match, when we came back from the showers, we'd find a £10 note stuffed in our boots for beer money. So, was I a paid professional or not? By the standards of the time, it's hard to say. So let's do this one more time. Take a look at this picture and see if you can tell me who it is. And of course, that's one of the fastest human beings ever, Usain Bolt. His accomplishments are staggering. Countless world records, multiple Olympic medals, the most successful athlete in the 32-year history of the World Championships. And not to mention, he's the highest paid track and field superstar by a mile. So, no wonder this consummate professional has the nickname Lightning Bolt. So, what is the point of examining two athletes for the ages and throwing myself into the mix when discussing professionalism? I think the three of us obviously all qualified as amateurs when we started. We had a love of the sport and talent that made participating fun and motivating. For Roger Bannister, running was his natural gift, but it wasn't the centerpiece of his life. Medicine was his calling, and he invested the necessary dedication and discipline in the pursuit of that professional qualification. I loved rugby. It helped me keep fit, learn teamwork, and keep a competitive edge, and all of which contributed to my business success. But was I on track for a professional athlete career? No way. I lacked the interest, I lacked the commitment, and frankly, I lacked the talent to raise my game. Which brings us to the lightning bolt. His destiny was to be a professional in the truest sense of the word. Obviously, he more than supports himself from his running, and on that basic level, he is a pro. And yes, he was born with a once-in-a-millennia set of physical gifts that he needed to excel. Bolt is clearly the best in head-to-head competition with his peers, as judged by exacting international standards. And realizing that his talent is the center of his life, Usain has developed that professional potential to such a high level that millions of people seek him out. And he offers all of us an example of what peak performance looks and feels like. That is the hallmark of professionalism. And that is what we all should aspire to in our human resources careers. And that's why we are unique in the HR world by putting the word professionals front and center in our association's name. At your Human Resources Professionals Association, we obviously take achieving that global standard very seriously. Our designations determine what defines HR professionalism at different levels of competence and accountability. And similar to the more traditional professions, like law, medicine, or accounting, our aspiring HR pros learn different levels of knowledge and theory. Then those principles are put into practice through work experience and mentoring. And finally, that professional capability is formally tested and assessed, and when our standards are met, a publicly acknowledged designation is granted. So that process is pretty straightforward, but it's not easy. Why? Because HRPA's new role of regulator means the government has entrusted us with tremendous responsibility to validate that our member skills are legitimately up to real-world challenges. Like making sure we add measurable value to what our organizations do, and that labor and health and safety rules are complied with, and that our companies provide dignity in the workplace while respecting and serving common good and protecting the public. So our careers are much more than just mastering best practices and staying on top of policy changes and technology upgrades. Values are front and center. Human resource professionals must embody the qualities of scholarship and integrity, honor, leadership, and independence. To take our place among the ranks of established professions, we must achieve and maintain those standards at an international level for all to see. And that's the key. At the core of HRPA's new competency framework is a common body of knowledge that straddles borders and even continents. When I meet other HR leaders, I see a growing consensus that to be recognized as a true Tier 1 profession, we need a global definition of what it means to be a human resources professional. I'm proud to tell them that our Human Resources Professionals Association has been doing the kind of work that can make that happen. So whether you're working at any of the 3 levels of our HR practice development, professional, or leader, executive, you're not only building a career, you're building an international reputation for the viability of the HR profession. Working together, we have to break that misguided business myth that Brenda mentioned earlier on, that anyone can do HR. That short-sighted nonsense must be seen to be just as ridiculous as putting me, or even Roger Bannister in his prime, into the starting blocks against Usain Bolt. So find the desire and get the training to be the kind of HR lightning bolt that redefines what it means to be a true human resources professional and become the only truly competitive choice in the HR leadership race. Thank you.